ask how you are very vibrant? Can I ask your age?
58.
58. You look amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so this is something that you do every day. Obviously, you do lots of stuff to amplify your wellness. Is there anything else that you really believe in as far as like managing your vitality, your health? Do you have like a pillar of two or three things that you do?
I mean, for me, I'm doing all of this with stem cells mostly because literally it was kind of put in front of me. What I
Mm-hmm.
mean by this is that I read this article 20 some years ago. This understanding comes that stem cells are the repair system. And honestly, I remember I have the image of my mind that I was at the time at my desk, and I have a product that puts more stem cells in circulation. Stem cells are the repair system. I'm thinking, oh my God, we're just putting an end to disease.
Yeah.
And I mean, profoundly excited by this sort of understanding. And I should say today, profoundly naive because the system is so big and strong and
Yeah.
hard to penetrate.
Yeah.
But what I mean is that when I got that realization and I'm starting to talk about it around me,
Yeah.
and everything I get is a wall, like nobody gets it. So if I really believe that this can change the world in terms of health and wellness, I mean, honestly, I'm almost feel like a traitor to not push it forward. So in a
Yeah.
way, it became like my mission, not by choice, although I'm happy doing it and it's great. But it's not. If I were to choose what I would have done, for me, I I mean, meditation is probably the thing that is the most central to everything that I do.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that almost everything is coming from your psyche, is coming from your mental state, is coming. You can shape entirely your world. Not only you can, you shape it, whether we're conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
So the one thing that is really central to how I approach all of this is really meditation. Just observe yourself and just realize that everything in your mind is not true. Very little of it is actually as the reality that we give it. And when you take that distance, there's very little things that affect you in the same way. And then it basically has its repercussion in the body. Health to me is not the desired outcome. Health is just what comes when you develop more of that piece. So to me, that would be like the core, the core. Once that is taken care of, with all the work that I have done, I think stem cell is like crucial. After that, I'm thinking movement, exercise, because
Mhm.
of everything that it brings. Circulation. We are not meant to sit all day like we're doing today. So movement is crucial. To me, these would be the top three.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of other things that you
Oh,
can do,
there's
of course.
all the things which we
Yeah,
talk about on the show.
yeah.
But I would agree with you that it's just there's so many studies to support just the idea of even when you're in a bad mood, just to smile.
hmm
And the act of physically smiling positively benefits your neurotransmitters.
When something happens that puts you in a bad mood, and somebody else has had the same experience and he or she is not in a bad mood, that tells you scientifically what happened is not the cause of your mood.
Yeah.
Is how you dealt with it that is the cause of it.
Yeah.
Because the other one dealt with it differently. So when you start to observe all these things and you realize, why am I reacting to these situations in the way that I'm reacting? It changes everything.
Mm.
That's what I mean by taking a distance, observing everything and realizing that most of the things in your head are not. I'm not saying the fact is not a real fact, but the way we perceive it is not what we think it is. And it comes back to this metaphor from some sort. I think it comes from the Vedas. But you walk in the dark and then you see a snake on the path, and you're afraid. So you're not going to take that path anymore because there are snakes in the area until the day you realize it was a rope that was laying down there on the ground. But let's say you never know that it was a rope. Now your entire life you live with the fear that there are snakes on that path. We live our lives that way. Everything we see, we rarely have the whole story of what is that fact. We make a judgment of it, and now we live with that. Every single aspect of our life is built that way. Stop and just look at everything with a distance, and it changes everything.
Yeah, beautiful. When people are considering something like stem regen, is there a timeline or a recommended a recommended endeavor that you would tell people to take? Like, you should really look at this for 3 months. You should really try 6 months. Like, if your experience, you're talking to a family member who wants to experiment with
Mhm.
boosting their own stem cells.
We are, I would say, unfortunately, we created that, so we're guilty of it, but we're a little bit at the mercy of the great stories that we have, like this Parkinson patient that had
Mm-hmm.
no quality of life, needed some sort of assisted living, and 6 weeks later has resumed his normal life. And suddenly everybody thinks, gee, in 4 to 6 weeks, everything will be resolved. These amazing cases are, to an extent, an exception. So I would say the best approach, you have not supported your stem cells ever in your life, really. So I would say the first month, give it a good boost. If you can, I would say take 2 capsules 3 times a day. You will have released in that month roughly 1 billion stem cells.
Mm.
So give that to your body. And then after that, go down. And if you go to two twice a day and you realize, oh no, I felt more at 3 times a day, then your body maybe still needs a little bit more of that support for a while. And then you go back. And the idea is go back then to maintenance, 2 capsules a day. And after maybe a month or 2 or 3 or 4, when you have reached the benefits that you're looking for, then maybe you start pulsing like you talked about.
Yeah.
You do it for a month, then stop for a month or two, and then you redo it. The time that it will take for people to experience benefit will go from 2 to 12 weeks. So
Yeah.
I would give it some time to really develop. And if after 12 weeks you have not seen really any benefit whatsoever, then it's your choice. Like, you can stop taking the product, but your stem cells still remain your repair system. You're alive because of your stem cells. When you release them, they do their job. The fact that you have not seen them does not take away the fact that they still do their work. But I understand people do something to experience an outcome, so you can quit. But
Yeah.
I would say give it about, so front loading, give it some time, 2 3 months, and then after that you can taper off, understanding that maintenance then become an essential strategy for aging.
Yeah. Yeah, I was probably 6 weeks in, 7 weeks in, I was high dosing, and I had texted your partner Stephanie,
Mhm.
and I had locked myself out of my apartment on the east side of Austin, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump the fence. And I just grabbed the fence, and it was a high fence there, really high. I grabbed the fence and leaped over this fence and landed on the ground. I would have done that. Like, I'm so careful about my
Uh-huh.
joints and the way I move after going through Lyme and just creaky old joints. But it was really, I was like, oh my God, I just leaped a fence.
There's a similar story. Jean Falacara with the
Mm-hmm.
Biohackers magazine, wonderful fellow, and his partner shared with me the story. The first time that we met them, it was at the biohacking conference last year,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to 2022, yeah, and they walked in front of the booth and capsules that release stem cells, and his first reaction was like, this is impossible. So he kept walking, but his partner stopped and we started to have a discussion, and he realized, oh, it looks like there's data behind this. So we did a podcast. So Jean saw the podcast and he thought, oh, there's substance behind this. So now I had a podcast with Jean, and so we went really deep in the discussion, and I asked him, well, you have some products, and he said, no. I apologize. I sent him some product, so he got the product, and within about 6 weeks, same story, similar story to what you said. He dropped me a text and he said in French, what would mean in English something like, I am floored. We need to talk. So I gave him a call and he says, Jean, he does like things with his body that's just like out of this world. But there are things that he had not been able to do for a number of years. And after 5 weeks of doing it, he gave it a shot and he said, I could do like 7 repetition of it. And when I started to quantify performance, he said, suddenly I was like, on some of the things that he was doing, he had like 220% improvement in his performance. But he had not felt anything until he started like to put it to the test. And I think that the mechanism behind this is just that the moment you start to repair all the small micro lesions that you make every time that you work out, these guys, you work out regularly, so you
Yeah.
always have micro lesion, like you never had in the past, let's say 10 years, a day without some micro lesions. When you start to enhance the ability of these to recover faster, that means your next session in the gym is not hindered or impaired by the micro lesions that you had 2 days ago. And by this phenomenon, every time you go back to the gym, you gain the full benefit of what you're doing in the gym. And then one day you put it to the test and you just realize this body is different now.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun.